Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the show. Hello, everybody. Ben and I are on the line. Don will be joining us soon. I'm going to be giving a brief introduction to what we're generally talking about tonight. We're covering three aspects of American government corruption. The title of the show is Maybe JFK Solicited His Own Death, Secret Covert Action of Fidel Castro and the United Fruit Company. So I'm covering three areas in lieu of the JFK suppression of files, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, the overview of the show, I picked the United Fruit Company because as a political science, it's a historical reference to what went wrong through American dominance by the CIA and private corporations. It started out as an American venture that traded tropical fruit, primarily bananas, grown on Central and South American plantations and sold to the United States and Europe. The company was formed in 1899 with the merger of Minor C. Keith, who had banana trading concerns, with Andrew W. Preston of the Boston Fruit Company. It flourished in the early and mid-20th century, and it came to control vast territories and transportation networks in Central America, the Caribbean coast, Colombia, Ecuador, and the West Industries. Though it competed with Standard Fruit Company, later known as Dole, it became known for international banana trade and maintained a virtual monopoly in certain regions, some of which got the term banana republics in Costa Rica, Honduras, and Guatemala. Now I'm going to fast forward because I have a shortage of time. The CIA attempted to control property and land in Guatemala and there was an uprising in the mid-1950s by Honduras. As a result, the CIA trained and formed a small band of mercenaries to fight against Honduras, and it blew up the capital of Guatemala. The CIA took the land back from the peasants, and it put it back into the control of the United Fruit Company people who had the interest. It was called Operation Success. It was devastating. The United States supplied weapons and trainings to local people who we financed. Peasants were slaughtered, strangled, burned alive, and tortured. Mario Sandoval Alarcon, who actually lived until the early 1980s, became known as commander of the death squads and was even present at Ronald Reagan's inaugural ball. Richard Bassel, who also controlled the CIA and was the chief of covert operations for a long time, started developing this philosophy along with the Hoover Report in 1954, which says that we had to go to any extreme and vast methods of control to subvert our enemies. That was a major change in the philosophy, as what we were trying to do is keep the Soviets out of Central and South America. Later on, John F. Kennedy was guilty of forming a secret committee called the Executive Action, which planned assassinations of at least 8 world leaders, and they even turned to the Mafia, John Roselli and Sam Giancana. They made 24 minor and major attempts on the life of Fidel Castro, including trying to lace his cigars with LSD. As it turns out, JFK was the one who was killed, and people are still suspecting mafia ties. Also tonight we're going to discuss the uranium land deal that Ben and I discussed earlier on the phone, and I'm going to play you this quick clip until Don Gallimore calls in. So everybody be patient and listen to this clip. One moment, please. I have to pump up the audio.
In the United States, Eisenhower needed voters to support his foreign policy. Using marketing techniques learned in the campaign, his administration packaged the ruthless tactics of the Cold War as a goodwill mission for democracy. There was little truth in advertising.
Fighting ends in Guatemala. These rebel troops, backed by air power, have compelled the ousting of Guatemala's pro-communist regime and have won a ceasefire from...
This is the story that most Americans heard. In fact, it was raw fiction, an imaginary revolution invented by the Eisenhower administration. The truth was that the U.S. government had staged a coup of a democratically elected government to protect U.S. economic interests.
There was economic imperialism, done covertly under the name of democracy and anti-communism, done by the CIA with the American press kept out in a way that would make it look like it was something very different.
One of the key operatives in this elaborate cover story was an ex-Marine named Phil Redinger.
I was called over to the Latin American branch, and one of my friends was over there, and he said, "Say, we've got a job for you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "We want you to take over the government of Guatemala." Of course, I've been hearing about this, but I said, "Well, what do you?" I said, "This is out of my activity." He said, "Well, listen, you're a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, and you can do anything. You know that, don't you?" Nobody in the government ever thought that Guatemala was any threat to the United States. What they were the threat to was the United Fruit Company. That's the only reason in the world.
United Fruit was known as the octopus for the way it held Guatemala in its grip. The octopus controlled 40,000 jobs. It owned half the country's arable land. Almost all the country's railroad tracks belonged the United Fruit. In 1952, Guatemalan workers toiled for 50 cents a day. United Fruit reported an annual profit of $65 million, twice the total revenue of the Guatemalan government. 50 ships, known as the Great White Fleet, hauled the bananas away to American supermarkets. They were sold under the brand name of Chiquita. The man who ran United Fruit was Sam Zamora, whose nickname was Sam the Banana Man. In 1952, Sam was not happy. A new government in Guatemala wanted some of Sam's bananas. To improve social conditions, Guatemala forced United Fruit to sell back part of its land, then gave it in parcels to 100,000 peasants. It was the brainchild of an idealistic president, Jacobo Arbenz, who thought land reform would save his country. He might as well have declared war on the United States. In the Eisenhower administration, the Secretary and Undersecretary of State, the head of the CIA, and the UN ambassador all had ties to the United Fruit Company. The Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, was a fanatical anti-communist who saw the Cold War as a biblical struggle between good and evil. Foster's brother, Allen Dulles, ran the CIA. It was a very convenient relationship, avoiding unnecessary debates about policy.
Foster Dulles was his own sort of Presbyterian.
I'm not going to play anymore now because I know my co-host is getting bored. And plus, Don called in. So just let me just do a quick summary. I'm using United Fruit Company as an example of how you heard it, Ben. I know you did. And I'm going to pull you in a minute. They manipulated 40,000 jobs, 50% of the country's land. And not until Jacobo Arbenz became president, Arbenz, and tried to initiate land reform, did the country have any hope. But then we turned around and murdered the peasants. We trained operatives to dominate and control the country and give the land back to the United Fruit Company people, and it was a mess. The topic of the show tonight is government corruption, and we'll go on that theme. Good evening, Ben, and good evening, Don.
Hello. Hello.
Ben had to sit through my 15-minute history lesson.
Yeah, I've read that before.
He might have been tired from his fancy dinner and needed a little siesta, so I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's always good to have dinner with family.
That's good. So, hi, you guys. Basically, I wanted to kind of take off in a new direction. Now, Don has been on the show long enough to know that I cover historical topics. And I remember learning a lot about the United Fruit Company in my political science class, and plus I wanted to tie this in with the uranium land deal. That's not what it's called. The Uranium One deal with Clinton and the Russians. And kind of the overall conclusion I'm trying to make tonight is the government tells us exactly what they want us to know. They don't spare us. They don't give us any relevant details. And it's not like I'm trying to start an insurrection, but we need to start somewhere and try to figure this out. Like, why does the United States feel compelled to have to kill people to maintain their control in the world? The 1954 Hoover Report said that by all means necessary, we have to do what our designed enemies do to try to maintain all these regions in the world. And it is pretty depressing. I'd appreciate if someone would like to comment now because I've kind of been talking the whole time.
Yeah, it's a game of chess. World control is huge.
Well, is it really necessary? Did you know those poor peasants in Guatemala in the 50s? They were slaughtered. They were tortured. They were burned alive. Now, give me a break. These peasants were not a world threat to America. They were not. It was the own Guatemalans that were persecuting their own people based on orders from the U.S. government. By the way, the Hoover report. The Hoover report is called the Doolittle report, and it's the report, Don. It's the report on covert activities of the CIA, a 69 formally classified document on how the CIA is to operate in certain countries. By the way, we also bombed the capital of Guatemala. Yes,
no,
Don?
No. You and Ben, you need to talk about this. You already know where I come from. This is, when you got
the white man's oppression and dominance in the world.
There you go. And when you consider that every single institution we have invoked in more or less the Constitution and beyond is for the elimination of the black man. We're talking Planned Parenthood, we're talking eugenics, we're talking unions, we're talking everything.
It's not just the black man, the Latinos lost out too.
Right, well that's now, but before they were they were pretty much toast at the white man's leisure. But for the most part, everything that is institutionalized is for the elimination, particularly and exclusively for the black man, and that's because.
So the NAACP. What about the NAACP?
That was made.
That's an institution, right?
I beg your pardon?
That's an institution.
I'm not.
Don, I understand your overall point, but do you have any specific concern about in history where government screwed people over, not broad strokes, but specific?
Essentially, almost every war that we've been in, besides World War I and World War II, were unnecessary wars, strictly for drugs and the military. That's it, and sex trade. That's it. The military has brought in all the drugs, all the most all of the sex trade workers, virtually anything that is considered contraband, if you will, or anything like that. That's the government bringing in across the border. They're using operatives disguised as who knows what. The Costa Nostras and the Mexican Mafia. You can call it anything you want. You got the Chinese Mafia, the Yakuza. You got all these gangs. And they're coming here. And the Guatemalans have their gangs too. As a matter of fact, right now what's happening is that Guatemala, well, not right now, but last year, primarily the children, immigrants who were coming over alone were from Guatemala because it's such a terrible regime down there right now. Guatemala and El Salvador are killing people left and right, their own people left and right. But you said it right yourself, that it was all about 100% mercantilism, or produce.
That's what it used to be called.
Right, and you're talking about the fact that bananas and other nuts and roots that grow down in that very fertile soil was being transferred to America, to the United States. And so they needed that trade. Who cares if they kill a couple black?
But guess how much the banana workers got paid a day? 50 cents.
Right.
And it was a $65 million business.
Right. Well,
what year was that?
It started in 1899 and expanded all through the Caribbean and Central America, but at the height of the exploitation, it was between 1952 and 1958. But what we did is we placed in dictatorships that lasted all through the 80s, up until the most notable El Salvadoran War and Honduras wars, which brought in thousands of immigrants in the 1980s to the U.S. But we complain about the Soviets dominating Syria. We had a stranglehold on that country for 30 years, those countries down there. We were equally as oppressive, I hate to say it.
Well, equally as oppressive. No, we were the leaders. you guys, you're missing it, Jane. You're missing it completely. Everybody is trying to do good. Everybody wants to do right. Everyone wants to be good in some form or fashion, at least when they're born. They want to do the right thing. Everybody wants to do right. Can we repeat that? Everybody wants to do right. But you have teachers. You have people who are supposedly leaders, supposedly people that you look up to, you might idolize. You want to fulfill their dreams along with the things that you are working towards to, I guess, fulfill your own dreams, one's own dreams. In fact, it just makes it harder because they can't fulfill them. You can't, when you can't win, then you go around with baggy pants and gold teeth and dreadlocks.
I think you're missing it a little bit because teachers don't raise kids.
You lost me at gold teeth.
That's fine.
So
go ahead. There's a segment of the population, Jane, that really doesn't give a fucking shit. That's it. Go ahead, Ben.
We've gotten that message from you over and over, but those people don't matter in a sense.
Well, the thing is, Jane, is that if we keep talking about history, then there's not too much of a different answer that can be given, at least from a black man's point of view.
Well, maybe I want a different point of view tonight. Besides black,
okay,
I want a political. I want to know why the government's concealing information on JFK. He died 54 years ago. What are they holding back against us?
Obviously, the CIA or the FBI are the culprits. They can do whatever they want. They have the power to suppress information for 54 years and beyond. They only gave us little snippets of what happened, and that Oswald wrote that he was going to get killed or something like that. I don't even know. The particulars are so old. You know, I don't know what Ben was when JFK was shot. Where were you, Ben? Oh, okay.
No, anyway,
he wasn't alive.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's like 25 years younger than us.
Then why are you trying to...
Ben, were you born in the 70s or early 80s?
80s.
Yeah, he's fairly young. He just happens to be smart.
Well, I wanted to jump in. I need to unpack a couple of things that you just ranted about. You said I'm missing the point. You included me and Jane into missing the point, and you started talking about...
You do kind of talk down to us sometime. We know that the U.S. was as corrupt as the Soviets.
Right. Ben, I revised it to just say Jane. Go ahead.
Okay. I know more than you, unfortunately.
Okay. I just wanted to...
Somebody else know more than somebody else.
I just wanted to respectfully disagree. I wanted to respectfully disagree when you were talking about mentors and teachers twisting people. So your foundation should come from the family, from home. Your teachers should not break your morals. You should go everywhere you go with the morals that you learned at home. Now, we're at a point in time where people disagree on what's right and wrong, or what's true and false, or what morals are. You can't legislate morality. So we can all agree about those three things, but to expect children to be raised right by their teachers and mentors up to their working career, that's just false. That's not the government's job to raise a kid morally. They can, but they should have a strong set of morals that they can bring with them to school on their first day.
Right.
They can't stay with them all the time. That's the whole point, is that we have an educational system that is led by the government from top to bottom, K through infinitum, ad infinitum. And we've got a governmental agency that pretty much tells the teachers and teachers unions and everybody else what they can do, how much money they can spend, et cetera, et cetera. That is leadership. That is governmental. That is not something that is controlled completely by parents.
All right, but
I get your point.
Okay, but I've seen parenting. I've seen parenting in a lot of different forms. I've seen kids that are extremely smart and like well-rounded in business in their, from 12 to 15 years old. But their parents drove home that point of you have to go out and cut throats, basically. They get rewarded for tricky behavior really young. You make money no matter what, and then they get rewarded for the amount of money that they bring home and how organized they are with it. But that's missing a lot of morality when you get out into the business field. You turn into a power tycoon, and you don't feel for the person that you're taking the money from. It's just cha-ching, cha-ching everywhere. Or I've seen parents reward their kids for stealing small items or, laughing about a lie that they told because it was funny. There's a lot of things that get missed nowadays because there's not a strong example of what a family should be.
I do think we can get back to that core ideology after we tackle something that I want to discuss, but then there are exceptions. For example, my mother started working nights when I was age 4. She didn't work at all my whole childhood till I turned 14. Then she started working nights, and that's when my father's alcoholism bothered me more. And one of my coaches, Lyle Helke, who was my mentor, he trained me from the 5th fastest runner on the team to the 5th fastest runner in the state within a 1.5 year period, and he kind of was my hero at that time. And he had a bigger influence over me than my own parents, except for my mother, who was always a saint. But all I'm saying is that sometimes a teacher can take on an exaggerated role in a child's life.
Right. So that's where these big deals that we learn about that involve crushing another country's economy or murdering people to keep something flowing. That's what happens. It's these kids that got raised to do whatever it takes to be successful, and the definition of success is what they turned into. Their understanding of what success is means destroy everything to get somewhere.
Those 2 CIA leaders that I mentioned, let me grab the paper. Richard Bissell, the chief of covert operations, and the other guy, Mario Sandoval Alarcon, who was a Central American-born person who became the commander of death squads over his own people. These people, at some level, at a certain point, they sold out. They put the definitive success of the world and the people they chose to ally themselves with over what their core values were.
Right.
Now,
and the rest
Don,
of us,
Don, I'm not trying to pick on you, but we already know where you're coming from a black oppression point of view. But it's not wrong for me to bring up different historical references. I can choose what my radio show is about, and I don't like how you don't acknowledge the fact that I have knowledge in these areas. I could talk a whole hour on the capture and the home arrest of Mossedegh of Iran. I just don't want to bore your ass, okay? Now, I have to read one. Go ahead, Don.
No, I mean, for the most part, we're just the lies. That's what I'm trying to say, is that some of the things that are historical, I'll put it that way, are complete lies. They don't have.
Well, this is not a lie. I just told the truth. I told you the truth about the United Fruit Company, how they
right.
The Central American president. Wait, let me get his name again. Jacobo Arbenz, the Guatemalan president, wanted to do land reform and give at least 30% of the land back to the peasants, and our government wouldn't allow it, and we stole it back and killed the people. That's not a fucking lie.
What is your point of view on that? What is your point of view?
My point of view is that.
Why do you think the American government did that? One thing, first of all, they created the fruit company. 2 white guys did. They built a bunch of railroads just for prosperity and profit, and to send bananas to the U.S. Then it got to the point in the 50s during the Cold War, they were scared of Soviet invasion,
and Soviet dominance, because Soviet did have an influence over Cuba and all that Che Guevara crap. So the American government amped its covert operations to make sure they had the stronghold in the area so the Soviets wouldn't have a Chinaman's chance in hell to ever have any type of influence in the region. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
And you approve?
No, I don't approve. I'm bringing this up to show how the government is corrupt. And there never was an American golden era. There was no, after World War II, there was a few years of happiness, but there was no golden era.
I have a question, though, about the uranium deal and the corruption. Now, why would Trump allow people to push for results on this uranium deal? He could have just let it go.
To make Hillary Clinton look bad?
Well, why would he set himself up?
Is he still afraid of something that we don't know?
I'm just asking more specifically, why would he put the magnifying glass on what has happened in the last, this goes back to the 90s, but I think Obama was hugely at fault for this uranium deal. He was the ultimate factor in all of these decisions. So he knew exactly what was happening.
I agree with that, and I'm happy to transition. Let's go to this subject, but I do want to bring up one last thing. But I don't. I think part of the reason, Ben, part of the reason is because Trump himself has had business dealings with Russia, and he has connections there. He ran the Miss Universe president there. I think he has a few secrets, and he's always trying to divert the spotlight to somebody else who did wrong. That's my answer. How about you, Don?
Okay, but more specifically about that question that I asked, why would he put this up there for scrutiny? It's not really him doing it, but he's wanting the people that he put into the jobs to do their jobs, even if that means digging up the past and fixing that before they move forward. So why would he do that if he was planning to do anything like that? I think he's cleaning up a huge mess right now, and I don't think he would have plans that were this
to me,
sneaky.
It seems like he never has pure motives. So you're asking the wrong person. I don't trust him, Ben. I would have to look into that more.
Him. Everything I just said is conspiracy theory, but it's theory. I mean, you have to. What a conspiracy theory is trying to make sense with missing information. It's got a bad name, but there's a lot of critical thinking people.
Well, maybe he does have a good mission in mind, but the fact of the matter is there were 9 agencies involved, including some federal agencies of the U.S. and some international bodies. And you have to also remember that Canada agreed to the sale. So Canada was involved too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta.
I don't see any problem with Trump going back to investigate it. Maybe he has a pure reason that I can't conceive.
No, you got okay. I won't say you guys don't understand, but you don't understand. What's happening is that Iran Iran with the Shah of Iran was democratic. They turned Muslim or Islam or whatever. I don't even know which faction, the Sunnis.
A theocracy.
So they changed to where they do have just total control from the pulpit, and so instead of a friend, dear friend in the Middle East that we could rely on along with Israel for anything, we've got 2 major, not including Russia, we've got 2 major nuclear powers, nuclear holders, warhead holders, and that's Pakistan and India. So we need to keep Iran out of there. If Iran gets the nuclear bombs that it can possibly get, it can easily strike India, Pakistan, India strikes back, and the next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. So we're not. I don't think Trump or Obama or anybody is looking to harm Iran in too many ways. They're trying to stop them from getting a nuclear bomb that will possibly.
That's not exactly what he's talking about. Can we back this up a minute? First, I want to tell you guys, I just read a New York. I have to read a section of this before I blow somebody's head off.
Ben, watch out.
With the help from Bill Clinton's connections, Canadian mining tycoon Frank Giustra in 2005 was able to secure a key uranium mining deal in Kazakhstan for his company Eurasia Energy. Months later, according to the New York Times, Giustra donated more than $30 million to the Clinton Foundation, donations that remained secret for years. Uranium One obtained Eurasia Energy in 2007. It was a dirty deal, and the only reason Trump's highlighting it right now is because he wants to take attention off the Mueller Russian probe. It's obvious.
Duh.
This
That's
happened
only
10 years ago, you guys.
But Mueller was involved. He was head of FBI at the time. Am I wrong?
Who?
That was
Mueller.
I don't know.
Before Comey.
Look up.
Maybe he was. I have to look it up.
Comey. That was James
He
Comey.
was. He was directly involved with what he's supposed to be investigating right now. How could he not recuse himself?
That's kind of bad news. In
He should
2008,
recuse himself. Yeah.
George W. Bush reached a nuclear cooperation with Russia, but the deal was withdrawn from the Senate after Russia attacked Georgia. Do you guys want to hear the last three sentences? Through the deal, Russia's nuclear agency gained a majority stake in Uranium One, and with its control of nearly 20% of the U.S. national extraction capacity. Under the deal, no uranium at U.S. mines can be exported except for uranium yellowcake, which was later returned to the United States. So it sounds like Clinton's made a profit, and that most of the uranium is now not able to be exchanged or exported.
Right. Well, the Clintons have a history of selling our country out to other countries.
Amen.
They sold our nuclear. They think that they can build the economy so they can look better for the next election, but it's at any cost. They'll give them everything we have to make them look better the next election. They'll kill anybody that speaks out against them.
They're the white version of Mario Sandoval Alarcon. They're commanders of the Uranium Death Squad.
No, they're worse. They're
I think Hillary was trying to be Mao.
They were slave owners, the Clintons.
Sex slaves or what?
Oh. It was
all of
it
the
was
above.
a bad.
All of the above. What do you think they were doing when they were on the private islands? You know, where Bill and Hillary and the Trumps were vacationing. What do you think goes on those?
How can two wetbacks from Arkansas? Well, actually, they're not wetbacks. That's a derogatory term.
My God!
How about?
Wow!
Here we go. That's a good icebreaker, isn't it?
No, that's the show.
How can two white crackers from Arkansas be that corrupt? They probably only know the missionary position.
They are, like I said, they were slave owners. We're talking the Clinton family. They've been down in Arkansas. They control part of Arkansas. So
I'm tired of this country. Can we all agree on one thing tonight? We've been on the air 42 minutes, and I don't want to attack each other. I like elevated debate of intellectual candor.
Oh, I'm just glad you didn't blow our heads off.
She hasn't seen us yet, then.
Where were you in 1963? And were you in Dallas?
I was in diapers. I was 3 years old. Probably not diapers. I was in training pants.
How convenient.
I was in third grade, and right after they were telling us that we had to go through an air raid drill that afternoon and everything. After looking at it in class for about an hour and a half until they let us go home. But before they let us go home, they went over the whole air raid drill procedure. Get under the table, yada, yada. And we're looking at these people going, what the hell are you talking about? This dude just got shot on TV, and you want us to...
Maybe Kennedy pissed somebody off in the CIA, and maybe just think of all those... Think of those crying nuns who cried for weeks after his death. How dare the U.S. government ice him?
I have a theory.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
On why the JFK was released. I think Trump has a stack of files, and he'll start letting them go unless he outs the people that are working for the deep state. I think this was just the first one. He's like, you guys don't want to play ball? Start letting these things fly out to the public left and right. How many you want to go? I bet he's playing roulette with them.
That's a good theory, Ben, and I like it. And in that case, I condone Trump. Go ahead, Don.
J. Edgar Hoover, that's all.
Yeah, now that you mentioned his name, can I go back? I want to read one thing, and then I want to read one thing about the JFK, the newly released JFK information. The Doolittle report, authorized by the CIA, the report on covert activity, I want to read something about it. The report compares with other contemporary Cold War documents, such as George Kennan's X article in Foreign Affairs, which was a major, I don't want to talk about that, it's in my foreign policy studies, which recommended a policy of containment rather than direct confrontation with the Soviet Union. The secret policy document produced in 1950 recommended a restrained policy of gradual coercion. Doolittle wrote that abandoned all principles approach that conveyed the national fear the U.S. faced in the prospect of annihilating at the hands of the U.S. So actually the Doolittle report was trying to talk about we don't have to overthrow governments. We can just suppress them through the policy of containment, like keep them in line. So that's what I was trying to say earlier, but we got off on too many weird topics.
Yeah, like keeping black people in ghettos. That's one of the biggest ways the Doolittle report didn't say, but it's the same idea.
It's true, but right now we're talking about international, not domestic. I hate to tell you.
Well, international has become domestic, and if you look at the laws that change, if you cross over the wrong line, say if you walk from a county road into a national park, there's a whole new set of laws that you could be breaking just by standing there. And that's how they get these mineral rights, is by taking and designating areas for anything. It could be, our governors and from the top down are so brainwashed. PA could come in there, or the Fish and Wildlife could come in there and say, hey, we need this acreage right here because of a blue-throated salamander that's in danger. So we're going to have to take 2.5 million acres of this forest right here. And they do it in the name of conservation. They've made all these deals all the way down to the land bordering private property. And then weird things happen to the property owners. So this is international deals that are actually killing people. And it's like the left and the liberals and the conservationists and the Indian tribes and the global warming people, they're all together in it. They think they're fighting for the tree frog, but it's really just fighting to turn land over to federal, which means international deal.
I know that's one of your main mantras. I also want to tell you the New Yorker reported 1 or 2 days ago exactly what you just said. I have to read one segment, so I hope you guys be quiet. The release last Thursday of previous classified or unseen government files relating to the assassination of JFK is being heralded as Donald Trump's decision, though it was simply his decision not to prevent their release, which has long been scheduled. In fact, at the last minute, Trump listened to requests from the intelligence services not to release some of the 300 of the remaining 3,000 files. But that decision raised more suspicion, so on Friday night the president tweeted, I will be releasing all JFK files other than the names and addresses of any mentioned person who is still living. Okay, this is the important part. It is always possible to find some smoking gun of a document that will be revealed. Scrolling through the PDFs, we learned that 2 days after the assassination, the FBI was roiled by the possibility that Jack Ruby was identical to a Florida racketeer named Rubin, and that 2 weeks before the assassination, Robert C. Rawls overheard someone in a bar in New Orleans offering to bet $100 that President Kennedy would not be alive in 3 weeks' time. But the document reads he does not recall ever seeing the man before and is not certain he would recognize him. Well, I also heard on the news that remember that Louisiana guy he went to trial for the death of JFK? Well, I heard on the news this week that was all a like a fake story that they used for a diversion. Did you guys hear anything?
No.
No.
Okay, let me just read one more part. Anything is more notable that turns up simply echoes what we've already known. The CIA was enlisting gangsters in an effort to assassinate Castro. J. Edgar Hoover was obsessed with the American communists and with MLK Jr. to the point of mania. Lee Harvey Oswald went to Mexico City in the fall of '63 in order to try to get to Cuba, and while he was there had contacts with Russian intelligence in the person of embassy staffers. Lyndon Johnson never entirely bought the Warren Commission's conclusion that Oswald acted alone. Oswald was a good, not an inept shot. The last fact known was Oswald's service record from his time in the Marines is curiously sourced to a Cuban diplomat. I don't know what that means. I don't want to read any more unless you guys want me to.
Honey, it means, first of all, Jack Ruby and Oswald were both CIA or FBI operatives. And J. Edgar Hoover was this big bitch cross-dressing dude, and he just wanted to have that power trip complete and, complete. So I don't know why we're... He
was also very smart, Don, and despite his shortcomings.
Who?
J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, he was short. That's why he was smart. He had nothing.
I said he was smart, not short.
No, he had a short dick. But anyway, he was short. But he had problems.
Thanks for sharing.
Not everybody's seen it. You should be lucky, Don.
No, I'm lucky. I'm lucky, but he was, he's like Trump. He's jealous of these black guys. They have bigger hands.
Wow. You know what?
You have to relate everything to the black man, for Christ's sake.
Okay.
I got to say something.
You got to understand. No. This is something that we have no leaders. The black race has no leaders because they've been killed and incarcerated. They've been completely underdeveloped.
That's not true.
Haile Selassie, who started the Rastafarian movement.
Right, but Haile Selassie was out of, where was he out of?
I think Egypt.
Haile Selassie was out of Egypt. Yeah, exactly. We're not talking about that.
What the hell kind of leader are you looking for?
I'm looking for somebody who's going to be able to stand up in the news and give a credible opinion of what is happening right now.
Good luck.
There's nobody.
He was out of Ethiopia, Don. He was out of Ethiopia,
right?
And the Rastafarians thought he was the almost like a Christ-like figure.
Right,
but I try to look at things from a human perspective first, and I think we need to kind of get back to that. It seems sometimes it sounds like you have tunnel vision.
Element. When they're going, we just agreed that the white-led government kills Indians and everybody else. What more is there to talk about? We need to get on with something that we need to.
Okay, you know what? But I hate to say it. You could, Don. In the old days when I knew you at the LA Times, you had more of a broader range of reasoning. You don't always have to be the spokesperson for the black race. What if we're talking about Cambodians and Indonesians tonight? Do you have to make every subject about the black race?
Right, because you're missing Myanmar. The human.
I'm just answering my question. If we're talking about, let's say we're talking about Ho Chi Minh and what his North Vietnamese strategy was with Vietnamese. Does that have anything to do with the black race?
Directly, no, but indirectly, everything is intertwined. So in some way or another. But no.
That's fine, but that's the center of your universe. It's not the center of the universe.
Oh, no, it's the center
right,
of
you have to kind of... We're coming together as a group of people. In fact, Albert just beeped in. Albert is from Mexican descent. I'm Scandinavian. I'm not sure what Ben is, but you're black, and we all have to come together from an intellectual, human point of view, not always from a racial standpoint.
But we can't do that if we continue rehashing all of the old stuff. The old stuff.
But you don't ever pick the topic, and you don't do the research. So you have nothing to complain about.
I'm not complaining.
No, half of the argument that argument you're using is rehashing.
No, I'm trying. I don't know how many times I've asked this eclectic group to get uneclectic. We need to start working about solutions in the future. That's what I do. I'm getting ready to put together some sheriff political symposiums so that we can. We're in negotiations. We're getting ready to have some consultation training for our college police up here because they've been acting fools, just saying stuff that's completely racial. And we're getting ready to do all of that.
Identity politics is not the way to build a better future.
You don't have to have to. No, I'm talking about everybody working together for a common goal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get to that level. I was 45 minutes into my mantra tonight, and Don accused me of trying to defend the U.S. government's action in Central America. My whole point for the show is to expose government corruption. So you don't even know who I am as a person after I've known you for 25 years. 45 seconds into the show, I went into this shit. All right? So it wasn't 45 minutes. I'm not going to wait 45 minutes. I've known you 30 years. I'm sorry. And you know me better to think that I'm using my show as a mouthpiece to defend murder in Central America. I was just asking. Now I'm done with it. You know what? I'm done with. I'm not going to argue with anyone. I'm pulling Albert in, and whatever you guys want to bring up is fine, but just don't make it single-minded. Good evening, Albert. How's it going?
I'm just chilling.
Hey, Albert.
What's up, Albert?
First, we talked about the United Fruit Company that exploited Central Americans for over 50 years. Then we moved into the JFK crisis and the Uranium Deal, and now we're just arguing amongst ourselves.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm looking at Houston. Houston trying to hold on. 2 outs, man on third, top of the ninth. I don't have a problem. We can have all the killings of all the Guatemalans we want. So are you saying the Dodgers are losing?
If everybody actually stop arguing amongst each other, we'll actually be able to reunite and stand up against the elite.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying. Jane takes it so personally. She. All
right, Ben, can I reveal what you told me earlier tonight, or would you be embarrassed?
Yeah, well, wait to
about
set
minor
that up.
C, huh?
No, I have no idea. So if you bring it up, it's just who knows.
Speculation.
If you bring it up, no, the guy that you're talking about, minor C, was.
Let's not say his last name to protect you.
There we go. Who knows if I'm related to him or not? It would be.
There was a person in history who was a charter member of the fruit company who helped build the railroads and plantations, and it might have been one of Ben's relatives. But we're not going to say his last name to protect the innocent.
Well, I actually read through this years ago, and it started looking at the Rockefellers and how the railroad happened, and I just hit a tree branch and started reading about this fruit deal because I've been in the agriculture, the produce industry, and I didn't know that. Well, yeah, I worked for an organic farmer that was surrounded by Dole and Blue Diamond and huge names like that, and I saw how it's hard to be an individual surrounded by all that. I mean, that's basically the government. If there's a Dole plantation next to you, you basically have to watch your border and don't do anything wrong.
Don, what do you think of Ben? Ben might be. Oh wait, just a minute. Some stupid ad just came on. Don?
I guarantee you, it didn't help me out any. I didn't get any money from it.
It's 12:12.
What do you think of Ben possibly being related to an elitist who dominated a fruit industry.
I don't care. Everybody has to come from somewhere. Right now, we're in 2017, going into 2018, and I am seeing us trying to go backwards. You know,
I was JFK's. I was John Kennedy Jr.'s secret lover.
Okay. You had to stand in line. You had to stand in line.
Okay, Don, I want to apologize. I was a little harsh on you.
Why? Don't apologize for anything. You have to have a thick skin. You have to be able to tell what in the world is going on in order to really, really live it. You have to feel it. You have to understand it. You have to crawl when they tell you to crawl, and you have to walk tall when you know it's time for you to take your place, your rightful place on the throne. And it's, like I've said before, it's a blessing that people are kept in jails, that people are kept ignorant, that people are kept, they kill them with lead and water and all kinds of other pollutants. It's as long as the numbers, the population numbers can continue to be over and above any other population mass, then the species will continue to go on. And eventually, I don't know if meat shall inherit the world, or the cream comes to the top. A lot of people are saying that a lot of these natural occurrences are from, the evangelicals are saying God is mad or something. Yeah, God's mad at you white folks for tearing this place up, polluting every damn tributary and riverway for decades until finally somebody from the EPA and some president, after Clinton, said, okay, it's time to clean this stuff up. We were just in New York, and we, saw the Hudson Bay. It's almost clean. You come to Philadelphia, it's almost clean. We go to Milwaukee.
Well, it was Richard Nixon, the screwed-up white guy who started the EPA.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Everybody.
I don't want to know if he's white. I don't want to know if he's white. I want to know if he's Irish or Scottish, German, Polish, or Swedish. What was he? Not white is lazy. That's the problem. We're getting lazy. We trust the census because it tells you what to think. If they broke it up by exact countries,
the census,
it would be a lot more accurate.
The census
Ben, I want to say something quick. My roommate Neil, he's researched what nationality he is because he's African descent, but he came from one of the tribes of Shem, Japheth, one of Noah's sons. So he did this long research thing on trying to determine what actual nationality he was as defined by the government versus what he really is. And it was actually pretty fascinating. But I was talking to this guy in a restaurant today, and he said, I live with a crazy white woman. I said, why do you have to even say she's white? Can't you just say she's crazy? And he said, well, I happen to be Native American, and that's why I said it. And then I said to him, well, is it really necessary that you said that? And I guess for him, that distinction was important to him. So I agree with both what Don and Ben just said. And thank you, Albert, for trying to be a peacemaker, too.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jane, for saying you're wrong again.
I didn't say I was wrong. What am I wrong about? That I'm Scandinavian, Swedish, and Finnish?
You said you were harsh.
Oh, okay.
I think you were trying to say disagree to disagree.
Well, or yeah.
By the way, I don't consider the Finlanders a superior race, but they're high up on the food chain.
Well, I have an example. I have a friend who's Dominican, and that's nowhere on any paperwork that you have to fill out for anything important. I mean, you go anywhere and the paperwork doesn't have Dominican on it.
No, it just says Caucasian, Hispanic, Asian.
It says Hispanic, of Hispanic descent.
It says Hispanic, not white, or Hispanic.
When you look at him, but that's not my point. I didn't want to stop there. I mean, he doesn't have a specific box to check. And when he goes around in public, people mistake him for being black or Mexican. 9 times out of 10, people either think he's black or Mexican or both. And he's proud of his heritage. He's proud to be Dominican. So I'm sure he gets tired of explaining that every single time. if someone assumes too much about him just by what he looks like, he probably doesn't want to go through his whole life history on how he got here.
Well, I have a lot of Cuban friends that look 95% white. Mm-hmm. They don't look Latino at all, and there's also a lot of black Cubans.
So that's just one example I have of identity politics being taken way too far. I mean, he's more concerned about being an American, but when it does come down to heritage, yeah, he's proud of being Dominican because he knows where his family comes from.
Well, how does he rectify the situation when people keep pigeonholing him wrong?
He's got a really good demeanor. He's happy about everything.
Does he get tired of people asking, is what I'm saying?
No, but he doesn't. He'll definitely take a stand without taking a side. So it's hard to explain. I mean, he won't take a side just because he looks similar to somebody else. He's got his own values, and he'll stop it. He'll draw a line. And it's more about friends and family, less about what you look like with him. So it really doesn't come up often.
Well, John, I want to mention a point. When I went to college at North Carolina Central and I was the only white person there, I heard women in the cafeteria talking about status and race according to how light-skinned they were. And there was a pecking order among the black race according to the pigment of their skin. So in that sense, they weren't unified against. They weren't sticking to the man. They were fighting amongst each other for status and power.
Right. That's how it is. And everything else, hair, eyes, size of your feet, that all comes into play. The size of your nose, it all comes into play. And being judgmental and how one group treats another group in certain castes. And so that's normal, you know.
If you ever watch Basketball Wives or the Housewives of New York, women treat each other pretty terrible.
Yeah,
never seen it. Sorry.
That's because one person wants a fucking D cup and one person wants a double E. What are we talking about? That's brainless. These people are. That's what the entertainment value is nowadays. That's where the Internet has gone. The Internet doesn't have anything on there that people look at except shopping, porn, and games. People don't look for hardly any news. They don't look for any property. They don't look for anything.
Albert, let's hear.
Albert looks at alternative news, and so does Ben.
Man, games, and more games, and porn, and more porn. And
I think you're talking about the couch potato American who only lives for entertainment, not people like us.
I took a survey that fat people now outnumber people who are hungry. Think about that.
Well, does that make you better just because you're skinny?
No, I'm talking about just the general impact of people in the
part
Internet.
of those people. You're part of those people, right?
We all have bad habits, let's face it. Okay?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm a Netflix addict.
Yeah, but more fat people.
I would admit that I'm not perfect, just like everybody else, and I do the same thing that everybody else does, but I'm willing to admit it.
Hey, so Don, are you saying
Jesus.
that there's no hungry people in the United States? Is it possible to go hungry in the United States?
It is, because I feed a little boy at school every day who his parents don't feed him properly, and they're fat, and they make him go on the same diet as him, and they won't let him eat bread.
Right, and that's one of the worst things for you is bread. You know, I mean, people don't.
Well, he's a fourth grader. He's not fat.
Well,
you
keep it away from him. That's how you learn.
If the kid asks me for goldfish, I feed him goldfish. I give him whatever he wants because he's hungry.
I wouldn't give him goldfish, as I would rather not give him bread. I'd rather go down and get him a piece of meat, not processed, no GMOs, no farm raised, nothing like that.
Sometimes I don't have time to cook a sirloin steak before I work. When I work 2 jobs.
Sometimes you really do. You really do.
We got into culture and weird stuff quick.
Well, no, freaking
wait till I get into voodoo.
let me just mention it. If you go to like Walmart or like
voodoo, you gotta watch out everything that they cook for you. They put some iron newt in your shit, be messing you up. Yeah.
Let me tell you that eating expensive.
Let Albert talk, Don, because I just sent you a 24-pack of Flint, Michigan water. Okay.
Good.
Go ahead, Albert.
Let me tell you, eating more healthier is more expensive. If you gone to like stores like Whole Grain or even Trader Joe's,
Whole
really
Foods,
expensive food there, you know, but it is more healthier than going, let's just say, Food for Less or Gardenas. I don't know if you ever heard of those Hispanic stores, but it's the very, very cheap food, or even at Walmart. So, a lot of the stuff in Walmart is from Japan, but anyways, what I'm saying is, let's just say middle-class people shop at Whole Grains and Trader Joe's, maybe at Vaughn's or Albertsons and stuff like that. And poor people tend to go to, like, Food for Less, Gardenas, and even Walmart, places like those. That's, you know what I mean? And that's just how it is. And why is it like that? That's what I have.
You know what you're talking about, like Whole Foods. So I bought 4 shares of Whole Foods the same day I heard that Amazon bought Whole Foods. I really missed out when Amazon got popular. Was the same time Tesla. I mean, if you would have put money in Amazon, Tesla, and I don't know, say Google, you would be a millionaire now with hardly chump change back then.
But just to mention real quick, if you go to Whole Foods, you buy like 2 bags of groceries, you can spend up to like $500 easily. Compared to,
and they got the bad name. They were going under because of their nickname. Everybody was calling them Whole Paycheck because they bragged about how quality their food was, but it was only the richest people in the BMWs shopping there. And so I bought 4 shares of Whole Foods, expecting Amazon purchasing them to boom their stock. And you know what happened?
Do you think that's going to help now? Is it a good investment?
Well, what happened was I was expecting to be, start making some huge money off of it. Like I was like, this is my chance right here. But what happened was they deleted my ownership of Whole Foods, and they paid me back for the amount. They paid me back for the amount at the time that it was. So I actually bought it for more than I got out of it, and I had no say-so whatsoever. They took it and paid me what it was at the last point when it went down.
So that kind of sucks.
And there's no way to tell if the owner had something to do with it with the co-workers, and they all decided to sabotage, and there's no way to prove. You can even try to take it to court, no way. And that's the thing. That's the thing with it's like gambling. It's like going to the casino. You have no idea if the machine that you're playing on the casino is rigged. You don't know if the machine's rigged. So maybe the machine is already set to make people lose 100% of the time, but you don't know that. So you don't know if it's rigged or not. You just you know what I mean? So I think there has to be an overhaul on how it's done, especially on the trading stuff.
Albert, the machines are rigged, like you said, 100% of the time. I've seen it where people who work for the company won the big jackpot, and that's very janky. But, Ben, that's a very interesting point, what just happened to you, because essentially when Whole Foods sold out, they recalibrated, reset themselves, and it's a reset. And
but they took dollars from me.
You should have had the opportunity to buy Amazon. They should have given you the before they said they were going to cash you out. They should have said, "Do you want to take 2 shares of Amazon?" I don't know what
No, because my 4 shares of Whole Foods didn't even equal half of 1 share of Amazon.
Right.
It wasn't possible. So that's probably their policy, but it pissed me off because I bought that and then the stock went down.
Yeah, Ben, no, you're not getting it. You should be able to.
Hey, don't yell at him like he's a toddler.
Shut up, Jay. Ben,
I'll knock you into next week and mute you.
Yeah, I know. That's because I'm black. But anyway, Ben, you need to check Amazon and say, hey, if I need $400, I want to, because Amazon's going to do nothing but go up. It's going to get into the movie business. It's getting into what other business that I just saw that they're getting ready to open.
Yeah.
God.
And they just steamrolled my stocks. They basically vaporized the company that I supposedly had ownership in, part ownership.
Right.
4 shares is nothing, but they're still on the stock market. If you sell 4 shares to somebody, that means that they have 0.00000 ownership of your company.
But you still should be able to appeal to Amazon to have taken that 4 shares plus X number of dollars to buy Amazon stock. You should have been given that option originally. I should have. You can take them to court because that is you're still a stockholder. You have a choice whether you want to liquidate those stocks or not. So they should not have forced you to do anything. Now, of course, Amazon, if it incorporates Whole Foods, you just said it, they're still on the market. There's no way they should have been able to cut their stock, their Class A or Class B stocks. There's no way they should be able to do that. So you have a potential case if you want to take way more than your stock is worth and invest it in
that would be like small claims. That would be small claims. And if it ever did go nationwide, go viral, I would still only get a fraction of whatever the lawyers don't get, so it's really not even worth it. I don't care. They took it from me, and they didn't give me a notification or anything. I was like, what's this extra money available? What's it doing here? Because I think I only left like $5 in the trading account, and then all of a sudden there was like more money. I was like, what happened? And then I realized, I'm like, there's one missing. It's Whole Foods. And I called them, and they said, well, yeah, we put the value back into your account and closed out the Whole Foods because they don't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have a question. What if you were ahead of the 8 ball and you bought it like a month ago? What would have happened?
Same thing. It would have disappeared.
Okay.
They would have
Just
paid
checking.
me. So the stock went down from, I think I bought in and it went up and then it went down and it kept going down. And then all of a sudden the point that it stopped going down was what they paid me for. So if that just happened to me, if I lost a handful of dollars, whatever it was that I lost, think about that globally. That's a lot of money they just took and ran with.
And they do it all the time. And who is they?
Because they would be the ones that got paid for their company, and they took the price that they were paid, knowing that the people still had investing into it.
Right, and Jeff Bezos is Amazon. I'm just wondering what race he is. He's probably he's Greece or something. Anyway, bottom line is that that's exactly how the African Americans feel about their 40 acres and the mule got taken. The Indians had all the treaties and they got taken. Hispanics should be owning, southern part of California and Arizona. That got taken. It's normal, Ben. Get over it. But the bottom line is that we need to look at the fact that you are, just like everybody else, if you don't want to contest it. That's where they're putting their eggs in the basket, is that they'll take something right in front of your face. And if you don't contest it, they won, period.
Well, since I go through a free trading app on my phone, I'm sure I freaking signed my legal rights away. They probably have the right to do that to me. And it's probably the app that has the right to do that. I guarantee
Albert, do you have any comments on this topic?
No comment.
Hey, it's 12 to 12 in the 10th inning, right?
What's that?
That was an interesting subject, Ben. I have a question for you guys.
It's 12 to 12
JFK...
in the 10th inning.
Huh?
12 to 12 in the 10th inning.
Thank you, Mr. Sports Expert. Interesting. They went 2 extra innings the other night, too. I hope the Dodgers win.
12-12.
So
a whole lot of drama.
Do you remember your conclusion last week?
No.
Oh. Go ahead and ask your question.
My question is if JFK got killed as a president because of obscurity, and we could never manage to kill Fidel Castro, why, besides Reagan getting shot by a whack job, how come no president has died since JFK, including Obama, who was targeted?
Well, JFK's whole family's been fucked with.
Right. This is not something.
We already know that, but how come Daddy Bush didn't die? Or
no, because they were all obedient to they all obeyed their masters, basically.
You don't think Daddy Bush had something to do with JFK?
Wait a minute.
Did you know that George Herbert Walker Bush groped an actress in a wheelchair? He groped her, and she went public last week.
God.
I do not care. I could care less. He's not in a position of power.
Why?
It happens.
Apparently not if you can't stand up. Okay, I didn't care either, Ben. I was disgusted by the whole thing. It's something I didn't want to know. It was on Yahoo News, and I happened to see it.
I wanted to get serious again. Do you remember your conclusion last week, Jane?
I remember you asking me why I never acknowledged that Obama and Clinton did anything wrong. But no, I don't remember my conclusion.
I think you said something to something like that Obama was the second coming, and I just wanted to ask you if you still feel that way, knowing that he was involved with the uranium deal.
I don't think Obama was a spiritual prophet, but I do think that the symbolism of his presidency, that he came from humble roots and out of nowhere, and even though he was a Harvard Juris Doctor and he was the first black on the Harvard Law Review, the first head of the Harvard Law Review, I do think that, let me put it this way to simplify it. I believe all presidents, including Donald Trump, are ordained by God because the Bible said that God puts all leaders in its place. Now, I do believe
but God also let Cain walk free after the first murder on the earth.
But he left a mark on him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, meaning that nobody else will kill you. You get to live out knowing what you did. That doesn't mean it's like a visible mark.
I do think Obama...
him so people... Well...
Okay,
anyway,
I'll answer it to the best of my knowledge, okay, Ben? I'll answer this to the best of my knowledge. I think Obama had special gifts which enabled him to become president. One of his gifts was oratory. No matter what his good intentions, I'm sure some bad things happen, but I don't think it was the age of Aquarius like the 60s and 70s in the U.S. where the blood of the Vietnamese created the Jesus Society and the mass resistors to the draft burning. So I don't think it was the age of Aquarius like it was in the 60s and 70s, but I do think Obama held a position in time that changed the direction of the world. I don't think he is a spiritual prophet in the sense of it being a redeemer of the earth.
So why do you think he did so much for Iran? And didn't Valerie Jarrett have ties to Iran too? I mean,
well, she was a Chicago. She worked for Obama when he was senator, and also she worked for the local Chicago city. She's like a Chicago girl.
That's where corruption comes from, and then they got to control the world. So why did Iran get all the benefit? Obama manipulated my governor to give Iran all those Boeing planes. And my governor gave Boeing an $8 billion tax cut that should have been going to schools and bridges. Now the schools have to do car washes all the time, and they send home paperwork asking for money all the time. This was because Obama gave Iran
okay, Ben,
our
I can
schools
explain
money.
that part. I can answer that question better than your last one. From a foreign policy standpoint, if we keep treating Iranians like there's something wrong with them and they're horrible people, eventually they're going to be like North Korea and retaliate. If we give them an ounce of humanity, and I saw a segment on Anthony Bourdain where a few Iranian young men said that Obama was the first president they respected because they gave our country a chance. Maybe the Iranian leadership maybe they're fucked up, their leadership, but there's regular people in Iran who just want to be counted as normal. So I think that Obama did it for altruistic reasons, not just Muslim.
So the Iranian deal was under Obama. He signed that. That basically couldn't leave his desk without him knowing about it. That has its own consequences. The Boeing deal where they got all the planes, Boeing's going to be building planes for Iran for years unless Trump put a stop to it. So that happened. And also you have the shipments of cash that went over there. What is his deal with Iran?
All I want to say from a foreign policy standpoint is that he was trying to water down the idea that Iran is in the holy grail of the enemy, the way that George Bush called Iran, North Korea, and another country the axis of evil. You cannot continue to treat other nations as pure evildoers unless they're directly at war with us. But I do think Iran is a threat to Israel, so I would have proceeded with caution if I was Obama. I wouldn't pamper and baby them, but I would just loosen the leash. I wouldn't give them all the gold in the world.
Right. Well, I think people need to see what Obama really did behind the scenes, because there's way too many people that think he was some kind of a saint.
Well, put it this way, Ben. You asked me to explore the uranium one thing, and I did. I can't answer questions that I'm not specifically knowledgeable in. I don't know his full reason for the Iranian deal, but I thought it was to create a backdoor to peace by giving them a little bit of loosening the leash so they wouldn't produce more nuclear capability, and that they could have some type of an exchange of goods that they've needed for the last 15 years that they've been deprived of.
Right, but why, in that case, why would he dangle the carrot in front of their face? He gave them all that cash to play with, planes, and then made the uranium deal with a trade partner of theirs, being Russia. Why would he give Russia that much control over uranium and then tell Iran not to play with Iranium?
I don't know, but in the end, it's going to be the same frenemies. It's going to be the U.S. going to war against Iran and China and Israel. So maybe Don can answer it.
It's all about the money. It's about what's happening with, even though the president may have said that he's not Muslim, he's sensitive to the, he went to school for, 4 years, 7 years old in Malaysia. And he lived around Muslims. His dad was, there's some things.
Indonesia, right?
Indonesia, and you get a sensitivity, and he may not think of the Iranians much like like normal people are like me. I don't give a fuck about them. They ain't nobody that don't trip me out. But the bottom line is that a lot of people are afraid of them for one way or another. I don't even know why. They still take a dump in a hole in the ground in their house. So, I feel sorry for them. They were trying. But they were trying to get the toilets in their bathrooms, but they just hadn't been able to do it. So you can't be mad about that. It's just the way it is. And Obama, I think, has some sensitivities to the Iranian plight, the Muslim plight, Islamic plight, whatever you want to call it. And that's where he has the nuts, the balls, the wherewithal to go ahead and make a treaty deal when there's no reason for him to pull a treaty with Iran. They had a little plutonium coming in from, sideways from Russia. So they had this, the threat was more than but over in the North Korea, but it still wasn't a threat enough to go ahead, make that treaty, get all these people incensed at you at the end of your damn term. That doesn't make any sense. And
right.
So
well, it does make sense. There's no morality there. It's a business deal. That's why he would put an American landowner's life in jail or in danger or take out an American who's trying to expose it during an election year. Obama was playing Clinton hardball.
He wasn't the only one who died through all of this. He was just the main one they talked about. Like you said, the Canadians were complicit. We're talking about half the world, the Africans, nations. They're looking at this deal, wondering what's going down. Israel, that pushed, even though they were pretty much on the same page, the Hitler playbook. Pushed Netanyahu over to where Trump was. It made him a lot stronger ally with Trump. So we're talking about the repercussions of this reverberated throughout the entire global, military structure, and but it was for no reason, and especially at that time because he's supposed to be draining Guantanamo. He's supposed to be doing all kinds of other stuff with the war on, not the war on drugs, but the drugs on war. That's what it's more like, where you open up he went with the Clinton playbook again and said, okay, as many opioids as we can possibly get out to the country, we'll do it. And, Obama just got back into the okie doke because, they were never really friends and they just worked for each other, but they never did like each other, which is understandable. But the war on drugs is Hillary's baby. She wants drugs in every kid's bottle, and she's got it. You see the arsenic in Gerber baby food and other baby foods. People are so stupid. Did you hear about that? Do you know baby food has arsenic in it?
Yeah, well, it's like goes back to the private farmer as opposed to the corporate farmer. Everybody wants. Well, the government wants you to work for a company that has lobbyists at the top of it. If you're not one of those, they can't play ball with you, so they just squeeze you out. If you try to do anything on your own, you get squeezed out.
Well, that's the military's fault, because the military, we're making so many chemicals and so much extra additional garbage for the military that we can't find waste locations for it. So it has to be put in our food, and it has to be put in our water systems, and our fluorides and all that bullshit. We don't need any
and
of
our
it.
planes.
Yeah, we don't need any of that.
I was just letting you know I'm getting kind of tired. It's 12:38 in Minnesota, but I wanted to tell Ben something. Part of the reason Barack Obama did the Iranian deal, he also had a prison swap where there was a one-time gesture of releasing Iranian-born prisoners who were not charged with terrorism or any violent offenses, there was a swap. Did you know about that?
Yeah,
I knew about that. We got the raw deal.
Yeah, we not only swapped 15 people for some a couple of lines about uranium, but we also paid them. Threw down in a military aircraft, so with journalists everywhere, dropped $400 million on the tarmac and left in cash.
All right, it sounds like they had a meeting and Obama said okay to every damn thing they wanted. That's what it sounds like. And then they made this story about prisoners to try to make it fluffier. This was a terrible deal.
Houston
okay,
won
so what's
13-12.
Trump going to do about it? That's my next question.
Trump's going to shut it down. He's trying to shut it down without a war.
13-12, Houston Astros.
Let's get into this next week. I'm going to have you, Ben, and Albert close the show because I'm kind of fading and I don't really have anything great to. Besides my desire to expose the American government, I have nothing more to share tonight.
So we have something in common. See there? Instead of you calling me names, we have something in common.
Good. We're going to expose the American government. We'll be on the CIA hit list, and we'll die a martyr death.
I'm in NAACP vice president, so I'm already on the hit list.
Okay, well for all you CIA operatives tuning in, please increase my ratings. Okay. I'll be listening in, but I might not say much more. Go on with your discussion.
All right. So, for the most part, Houston just won 13-12 in 10 innings.
And baseball just beat football this year.
Yeah, well, they only had one player kneel. We had a whole bunch of football players this last weekend. And, nobody can tell anybody anything because it's not about the flag. It's not about the national anthem. It's about the treatment. You've got Missouri. The NAACP has gotten the people to go with a travel warning, travel advisory.
You know what I like?
People.
You know what I like seeing is when people are kneeling, I like to see them wearing gold chains and diamond earrings too. That's awesome. Because when they're kneeling, they know their bank account's stuffed. So they're just kneeling to make a show.
They do. I mean, I'm trying to tell you, Ben, there's a caste, there's a class, there's a whole group of people who don't give a Mary mother bleep, 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 bleep. They don't want to participate in this experiment. This experiment has gone totally wrong from the outset because when people are helping people get to where they're at, when they're out there working their butts off and they're not making any money and they get the slop from the back garbage and they have no place to, they have no way to get toilet paper. They have no way to get any kind of medicine. They have no way to get an education. They have no way to raise a family because their family's being broken up constantly. They have a baby, the baby's gone. Having a baby, the baby's gone. They might have two babies, and then the mother's gone, or the father's gone, or the father's killed. That's a normal life for the black man. Everybody dies.
Well, the value of a life has become lower and lower and lower. Look at the problems. You can blame the education system because that's actually the second step, but blaming the family is like taboo. You're not supposed to blame the family unit anymore because it's such a perpetual problem. It's like all the positive male influence is being abducted by these in these urban areas. Basically, the positive figures are being ripped out of homes, and then they actually expect a school system to raise kids. It ain't gonna happen.
Exactly. That's what I get at when I finish what I keep talking about, is the fact that overall society is burdened. It's a shame. It's a disservice to our government. It's a disservice to our white people.
Let's start talking about reproducing less. Also, I mean, can that be part of the discussion without hurting feelings? Let's stop bringing 10 children in with no father around. Because that happens more often than it should.
Right, but the welfare system is built for that. The welfare system is not built for ZPG.
Yeah, people are going to be so disappointed when that system fails. Because if we have to make a choice between everybody having health care or some people having full coverage of childbirth, when you talk about the entire population, when you talk about the entire population having paid access to health care, but then you're actually expecting that to happen with basically state-run households, you got to choose one or the other. There's going to be some pissed off people when one of these systems fails.
Right, it's going to be pissed off poor white people. That's the problem, is that the white people are starting to feel the pressure that everybody else has been feeling since the inception of this white rule in this country.
The pressure has been building from the bottom up. And when you destroy the middle class, the country gets destroyed. Because the middle class is like, if you pop a balloon by sticking a needle in the middle of the balloon, the rest of the balloon falls. The middle class has been pulling the entire weight of all these bad decisions for decades. And when you've got the pressure building up past the middle class, your country's running on credit that it can't even buy anymore.
Exactly. That's why they're slowly disintegrating the dollar. I haven't gone through the. Have you heard me talk about the Glasov directive? I think you wrote it down one time. The Glasov directive. I know Albert and Jay know about it, but it's
Glasgow.
Glasov, Glaziev, Glasov directive. It's the denouement of the dollar. And that's what they're trying to do right now. That's because the rich people want to destroy the middle class so that they can garner all the money. Money centralized in America and in the world becomes one centralized monetary unit. And that means that instead of 1% of the people owning all 6% of everything, you've got 1% of the global owning 6% of the global rich. That's the ultimate goal here. And the middle class, and
that's what Trump has realized. That's what Trump has realized, is that China now has more billionaires than the U.S. There's got to be some serious changes made in the way we do business. Trump isn't in it for the money that we are going to pay him with taxes. He's in it for keeping the country with billionaires in it, because he understands where the economy can go wrong in a hurry. If another country has more billionaires than you, that means their military can last longer than you.
Right. They can get paid a lot longer. And the thing is that, he also knows that the Chinese have to first of all carry their weight, which is right. They have to stand up to the North Koreans and say, if you start blowing up shit, then we're going to have radiation. We're going to have more bombs dropped in places, and that can tear up our allies. They
don't care about radiation. They care about us building a base where North Korea used to be. They don't want to lose that land. It's only the size of Pennsylvania, but China thinks that's very important in location.
Right, and that's why we're still going to stay in Afghanistan. We have no business in Afghanistan, but because we lost our bases, a couple of our bases. Oh man, I've forgotten which ones.
We're in Afghanistan for China.
Kandahar.
I already told you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We are only in Afghanistan.
Ben, your beloved Donald Trump just sent 3,000 more troops to Afghanistan.
Right. For no reason.
Well,
for no
to
reason.
protect the ones that are already there.
There's not
Probably
going to be a victory there. I'm sorry to tell you.
Nobody's ever
no. The
had
greatest
a victory in
countries,
Afghanistan.
the greatest countries in the world have all lost a land war with Afghanistan. But I think that started with the lithium and copper and pipeline deals. We've had a lot of Priuses hit the market, and China makes batteries for Priuses.
Also, BYI.
We've discussed this numerous times. Can you guys? Are you guys
so
letting Albert talk?
Albert's gone home. He's asleep.
Albert is on the line still, little friends. Albert?
He's asleep. He's asleep. See? He's asleep.
So I'm glad we didn't talk about the Vegas shooting, because that's crazy.
No, that's a rich man gone crazy, and you got to understand that I keep telling you, saying that you are what you eat, and
no,
we're eating garbage and garbage in, garbage out, and we got this rich white man who's all of a sudden shooting like a crazy.
That is such. Have you heard any of the videos? Have you heard the audio footage of people on the ground?
More than one shooter.
Exactly. So that narrative is gone. It's not about white men anymore. As soon as you could hear two guns firing at the same time, that story's false. Sorry.
Bottom line is that what is it? What am I wrong about?
You're wrong that it's not black and white. I mean, you're wrong about it being about a white man. It's not.
Right now, we got Lehi Oswald as a single shooter from 500 yards in a small window in a knoll that he could just barely see over. We got a white man who just killed Martin Luther King. We got all kinds of other stuff going on. What is it? What's your point?
My point is that anybody that scrutinizes the mainstream media knows that Vegas was a complete setup and it's a big lie and it's a cover-up and nobody actually knows the truth.
Okay,
but that media crap, the media crap they were pushing was for gun control and more division in race. They want to say it's another white guy, and then let's get rid of these guns that he might have used. No, that has nothing to do with it.
Besides the Dallas shooter, who was military, and the San Bernardino, the guy went into the forest, the police officer. These mass murders are all by white people. Columbine, Sandy Hook, every place.
Oh wait, the San Bernardino? Did you say they were white?
No, I said the San Bernardino, they were Muslim. But
okay.
You got
that matters.
No, the church down in Charlotte, in North Carolina, in South Carolina. I mean, you got all.
You're missing the Vegas point.
Yeah, but no, they're all crazy white people because they've eaten the wrong things, drink, smoking, everything.
So what happened in Vegas? What happened in Vegas, Don?
What do you mean? What happened in Vegas?
Just Vegas.
We got this guy. As I said, I know that it's more than one shooter. I mean,
okay.
Let me put it like this. I know that there's probably more than one shooter.
Were they all white?
Yes. From what I understand.
How do you know?
I don't know that the second shooter was white, but I can almost. Okay, I don't know that the second shooter or the third shooter. Or
you don't know anything more than I know.
I know that the main shooter was. I know the main shooter was white, so I'm going on the assumption that his cohorts were white. Now that doesn't have to be true, but it doesn't matter. Bottom line is that he was, and he was a rich white man, and he didn't have any reason. He was winning money at his gambling. He had a girlfriend who actually cared for him, and he was. So you don't believe that it was any kind of a Fast and Furious type of deal gone wrong? Weapons deal?
Yeah.
No.
It's where they lost thousands of guns to the Mexican cartel. The CIA.
Exactly.
The CIA lost
gun
thousands
walking.
to the Mexican cartel.
So what's that got
That's
to do
well
with
documented.
The Mexican cartel
So you're
smuggled
saying-
guns back to the United States, and people committed crime with those guns, and now they
Right.
put more gun regulations.
Yeah,
Now
they were doing
here's
that.
something funny. Here's something funny about the Vegas shooting.
So who was the?
Now,
who
if
was the
you
perpetrator
believe, if you believe it was a crazy white man, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. You're
No, I don't
following
believe
the
that.
rules that you can't even see. So,
No, I'm
first of all, if you listen to the radio chatter from that night, I happened to watch it live when it was happening. I could hear the radio.
Mhm.
There's been lots of people putting together the pieces of things that don't make sense. Now, if you watch the radar, you can see helicopters all over the place in unauthorized airspace. They told all the flights, they diverted all their flights. Now, why is there random helicopters doing weird? There's one that does a weird pattern and stops for 1 minute and turns off its transponder. It zigzags all over where the shooting was taking place. And it happens to be a police helicopter, is what they said. But they cloaked their ID number as a Boeing flight. So if you looked into any of that, the Stephen Paddock story, that's exactly what you're supposed to believe. Crazy white guy,
Right.
Gun control. You only need to
Same
know
thing
two
with
things. Crazy
Harvey
white guy,
Oswald.
gun control.
Same thing with D. Harvey Oswald. Same thing with J. Earl Ray.
So I hope I could open your eyes to that one. You need to know what you're being played to do.
I already knew that, Ben, but I didn't know. I didn't know about the helicopter patterns, but I do know about the. I mean, my daughter would have been down. My son would have been down there that week. He was at the one before on Fremont Street. Life is Beautiful. So he knew something was going to possibly go off there. So this is not anything that was new or unplanned or unexpected. Well, it was unexpected.
Yeah, this is not one man.
No.
A dead guy is not going to control what a helicopter does. It's out of the ordinary.
Well,
so
you
a
brought up a good
helicopter,
point.
and there's four of them. They all go to the airstrip.
They never saw his face. You only saw his torso down. So
I saw his face. There was blood coming out of his mouth upwards, and if he would have, I hate to get gruesome, but this is a huge problem with the narrative. But if he would have shot himself with a magnum that's shown in the picture, there wouldn't be that much of his head left.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
So what happened, I think, he was offed early. I think it was a stomach shot because you can barely in the photo, you can kind of see a shirt shot with a little bit of blood, and all the blood came from the esophagus, because the only reason why I say it was a stomach shot, not a lung shot, was that if it came from his lungs, it would be foamy. Right. And it looks like it all came from the stomach, and it was clean blood, and there's a big pool that dried and soaked in, and then there's a smaller pool that was coagulated. I'm sorry to get gruesome, but that's a huge problem with the narrative.
No, we're not believing it, and we know that it hasn't been proved. Nothing's been proven yet. And if you heard the first Lombardo conversation, and I mentioned this before, he came straight out and said, "We will lie. We are lying to you." In essence, he said, "I'm telling you everything I know, and if I knew more, I still wouldn't tell you more." So, he said straight out that he was lying to us. So, these are assumptions again.
Right. So what's going on with the flight pattern of the random helicopter that's flying way too low? What's going on with the air traffic controllers talking about active shooters on the runway? I don't know what the hell happened, but the narrative isn't what happened. Definitely it wasn't Paddock orchestrating all this stuff.
Well,
and you can clearly hear audio there's audio from people hiding under the bleachers, and that you can't see anything video-wise, but you can hear that there's a shooter far away, and the shooter from far away has an echo. And then the shooter from close to wherever they're hiding, it's close enough not to have an echo. It overlaps the shooting from far away. So that proves right there. There's a shooting on the ground, and there's shooting from way away from them with echo.
Exactly. And we heard at least 2, maybe 3 shooters in all the video and a lot of the stuff that we heard. So why did you even say it was a crazy white guy? Ben, I didn't say that. I said that was the guy who they are blaming. I'm talking about conspiracy theories that I can't explain because they're lying to you. Lee Harvey Oswald could not have had shot. Have you seen the JFK shooting? His head is recoiled backwards. Oswald at the repository, he was in back of him. His head should have been blown forward, then backwards with the recoil. I mean, there's physically, they can't be explained. And they're lying to us. That's why I say what I say. Because I don't give a shit. These people are lying to you. Everybody's lying to you. And I've got people like my beloved Jane who believes all this crap and then can't come up with an explanation on why it's happening. That's not right. If you come up with a question and you seek an answer and you find an answer, your God-given right is to come up
right, and that's what I've told
for that action.
That's what I've told people. Don't wait for the news to come out. Dig for it. It's all there. If you have a problem with the narrative, if you dig for it, you'll find what the real narrative should have been.
My problem is that every narrative has a problem. Every single narrative that comes out of everyone's mouth from the government and the agencies is a lie. You got Trump saying that the scientists in global climate change are lying. So that means that the scientists are all lying. You've got Trump who's saying that the CIA and the FBI and all the generals are nincompoops and liars. He's got them, and the FBI is leading them. They're all liars. Everybody's a liar. Hillary Clinton's the biggest liar around. We got liars everywhere you turn. And my thing is I'm trying to tell everyone, change the paradigm. You are guilty until proven innocent. That's how the courts work. Why don't you stand up for the Bundys then? He's in Vegas. I don't have a problem with the Bundys.
No, you don't have a problem, but you're not standing. You're not standing for them.
The only reason is because I disdain the law, and they did too. So in a way, they're good people for disdaining the law. The law sucks. The law was built in the white man's image.
But it's not about anti-government. The narrative changed on them really quick. That's why they're in jail. The narrative turned into anti-government protesters. That's not what they were. They were talking about the discrepancies in the Constitution besides what was going on the ground and what the Constitution says. And sure enough, they're put in prison for saying that.
But the Bundys were put in prison because they were on federal, quote-unquote, federal grazing lands for a generation. They believed it's a God-given right to be on federal, which are public lands, but that's why they're in jail. The protesters, that was the Oregon one. This one was theirs. They went in Oregon, and whatever they got. But the one here in Nevada, they were standing up for what they felt was against the law. So it's against the law. So, I'm not for the law, but if it's against the law, And especially if these assholes are for the law, then they have to follow the law. If they're not, they just straight up say, I'm not following the law, and then give me my cows back. You know,
right, but their argument wasn't about the law local. It was about the law constitutional. So they were actually correct, but the only technicality was the main technicality was what started this whole problem. The technicality was other in the Constitution. In Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 is what they were talking about. And it was the word other is basically everything. So
what was
not
that
specifically...
What was Article 1, Section 15? What was that again?
Article 1, Section 8, Clause or Paragraph 17. It explains the reason a government can take land. And that's the exact same, the word in there is the exact same reason why the pipeline went through North Dakota. It's because other is used. They can claim other means anything.
Okay, so that's...
Do you want me to read it? I can...
Well, go ahead, yeah, because I have no idea what you're kind of talking about, because if the government said, the government has, that's the problem with it, is that the government wants laws that are black and white, that are cut and dry. Even when they say may and shall and might, they really
it's called double standards.
Right. Exactly.
But it's using a loophole. And they talk about, I always hear the gun show loophole. That doesn't exist. But the real loopholes are in the law that they interpret themselves. Then they put judges everywhere that interpret it the same way. And that's the problem.
Right, exactly. So this Section 8, whatever, if they say other, a way that they can manipulate black and white, there is no gray area. They can manipulate black and white by other, and other means whatever they want it to mean, period.
So here it is. It's Article... Wow, pages long. Let's see.
Yeah, no,
Article 1, Section 8. But this paragraph right here is exactly what they're using. So it starts out, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 square miles, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may by cession of particular states and acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. Other needful buildings. So they can build any building they want based on the word other, because they can just say, this land needs a headquarters. So that falls under other needful buildings. And they can take the land for any kind of reason they want, whether it's historical value, which happens a lot. If you find an Indian bone or an arrowhead, it all of a sudden becomes federal land. If there's a green spotted tree frog, they'll take all the acreage that they suspect that frog to be in. And it all goes to the same place. Then they can make trade deals with the minerals.
Right, and the thing is that this land was stolen. You understand that, Bill? All this bullshit that you're talking about is bullshit. Because the treaties of the Indians, the Mexicans, the blacks were stolen. It all was stolen. This is not supposed to be the way it is.
No, it wasn't stolen in the first place, but it's being re-stolen now by globalists.
Okay, that's it. Oh, man, you don't get it.
Wait a minute. This is Jane from the United Food Company, and if you're in overtime, it's 50 cents a minute for your opinions.
Give me my bananas. No, Ben, these treaties, they were all stolen. The French coming through the doggone Great Lakes,
Louisiana.
They were the Great Lakes, and they came ultimately down.
Yeah. So why did the Louisiana Purchase happen? Because why did they get to steal it, but we had to buy it?
27 cents an acre. Come on, man.
Well, look at the Alaska Purchase.
Right.
The Alaska Purchase it's a third of the size of the U.S. They got a good deal on Alaska.
They got a great deal.
Yeah, they're trying to build a new pipeline up there, and they had a special on CNN that it's going to ruin the salmon industry up there if they build another pipeline.
They don't give a shit. They're getting ready to move to Mars. They don't care about us
both
on
ways.
Earth. They're getting ready to move to Mars and leaving Ben right here with everybody else, and you're going to have to suck it up when you're living next to an Indian, a black guy, and a Mexican. You're just going to have to suck it up. Guess what,
Don? God's going to make the mountains low and the lowlands high. All bad deeds will not go unpunished.
And
you don't have to worry about inequity.
That's why I say all this verbiage is specious, because it is a waiting game for the real rulers of the world, which have always been the real rulers, who have been black men. We're just waiting until that day happens. So we're just, we're playing, gin, rummy, and dominoes in prison, and we're just chilling out, eating 3 meals and having 3 meals in a pot.
Something that needs to change right away. Something that needs to change is that all of our laws that we're supposed to know and follow are written in a foreign language to us. None of us can argue that we don't know how to speak law. And they write circular patterns into their laws, so it's up to the judge. The judge can prosecute on both sides of one law, because there's circles in the law. You can be prosecuted either way on every law that they write, and it's all in a foreign language to us. You actually have to pay thousands of dollars to go learn that language. And I think that's treasonous. You can't do that to people.
I've got a lawyer daughter, and one thing that we always had to worry about is that lawyers nowadays are necessarily specific, general law specific. You have to have if you have a lawyer for the automobile industry, he may know law about the engine and the transmission, but he won't know law about the doggone struts and the suspension and the exhaust.
Exactly.
You got to have other lawyers for those. You got to have lawyers for the tires. You got to have lawyers for the lug nuts. You got to have lawyers because nobody is topic exclusive. Now I'm
and how much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet most lawyers are Democrats?
Oh hell no! Oh my God! All right.
You want to bet me?
100,000. I'll go ahead with that.
You'll bet me 100,000 that most lawyers aren't Democrats, or are?
100,000. I didn't say 100,000 what, but I'll bet you 100,000. I'm looking at OAN right now, and it's a poll that just came out that 55% of white Americans believe they face discrimination.
Well, if you put it like that, your numbers are wrong. What's a white man? You got to be specific. If you're gonna define a statistic, you got to define the edges of the borders.
this is Liz Wheeler, who's ultra-conservative right-wing Nazi, and she's got some white boy in a non-fitting suit trying to justify the 50, he's from Arizona, too, Don Gabriel, editor-in-chief of Ricochet.com. And they say that the poll that whomever they took, they're not saying where the poll came from, where 55% of white Americans believe they face discrimination. Now,
guess what? Take my name off of that poll because I never signed anything that told my opinion about that. So
I don't know.
Here's a technically a white guy that didn't take that poll.
Right, but do you feel discrimination because you're white?
No, I can see right through that argument because they want to define the borders of what's white and what's not because that's supposedly the great white enemy. But I don't have love for the color white. I don't. It's so stupid to even talk like that coming from my point of view because I actually appreciate my heritage a lot more than the shade of pale that I am. And I get a tan every summer because I work outside, so shade of pale
Trump
means nothing to me.
Trump is a race baiter. He always has been. He was from the day one. You know, all this shit wouldn't have had to happen if Mr. McConnell hadn't come out the first day Obama had office and said, we will not work with this black man. You know, he didn't say black man, but he's the president. He's the same Muslim, non-birth certificate black man. So that was the first of this bullshit, and it's just a war.
Well, you know, that's not the end of the story. The NAACP kicked out a white person trying to act black, so that's where the segregation doesn't help the movement.
She left on. Oh man, we go to national every year. She left on. Okay, here's the next story on OAN about NAACP issues national travel advisory for American Airlines. American Airlines is now being ostracized for being racist. And, you know, why would these things be coming up if it were some modicum of validity of truth?
Where did Black Lives Matter come from? Donald Trump? Did he start Black Lives Matter?
No, but he probably exacerbated the problem. I can't say.
Oh, sure he did.
I can't say yay or nay, but all I know is that all of his.
It's an easy answer. Donald Trump had absolutely zero to do with Black Lives Matter being founded, and how coincidental that Black Lives Matter has the same exact consonym as Bureau of Land Management. They got buried with cultural information. Google BLM. It's all about black. Black
you guys, the show's going to cut off in 13 minutes.
Okay. Well,
can you do your conclusion? We've been on the air 2 hours and 20 minutes.
All right, Ben. I'll conclude and then you can finish it up. But unless Albert wants to jump in there because this is
Albert. You can conclude too if you want.
I'm good.
We're talking about BLM.
Okay, thanks, Albert.
We've been talking this whole show about the ability of the government to do whatever it wants to do. That's what a lot of the bulk of the show was about. So
that's
BLM
what it's about.
Google, those white faggots over there, Google and Amazon and Apple and all of them, they are in cahoots with trying to continue or perpetrate the white man's lifestyle, his entitlement, and slavery. He's got the Indians from East India as new slaves because he's only giving them 3-year to 5-year visas, and if they stay that, they're illegal immigrants. So, and they're not getting paid nearly as much as the normal engineers inside Silicon Valley. So, you know, that's our new slave. The Mexicans fuck them. You know, they've already killed off all the black leadership. So now it's the Eastern Indian and the Asian that they have to start killing. And so that's their new target. Donald Trump is a perfect venue, or he's a perfect vehicle to transform the old hatred, racism, and genocide to work on the new genocide, which is going to be people of the world, again, of color, because you've got the smartest, everybody knows, the smartest, the fastest, the strongest, and the biggest people in the world are Africans. So we're talking about he's got to start on the Africans and the Asians and the Indian populations and their genocide. In the meantime, he's watching his beloved Germany and Austria and Sweden get, and he don't give a shit about France and England, but he's watching them get overrun by immigrants, and he's not doing anything about that. So you've got a conundrum that black people are sitting back. That's why Donald Trump is the president. They're just sitting back. They didn't vote, and plus the voting machines in North Carolina, Wisconsin were rigged, and then and Georgia. Georgia had their voting machines rigged.
They're the ones that run the voting machines.
So it's all rigged.
Yeah, well,
it's all lies.
Stop doing the work of Democrats then. For crying out loud. I mean, all this stuff that you're talking about is tied to the Democrat Party, and you're part of it.
I've got my own party. I've got the Gallimore Family Party. And we are...
Well, I haven't seen that on the polls.
Oh, you will.
By the way,
you will absolutely.
We only have 9 minutes left, and I want to do my conclusion for the next 3 minutes.
All right.
Then Albert and Ben can do theirs.
Goodbye.
They each have 4 minutes. Patrice Emery Lumbamba was a Congolese independence leader who was killed in January 1961 by Dwight D. Eisenhower because he was elected independently as the first democratically elected prime minister, and he was killed because the Belgian people who left the nation still had a remnant, and the Katangan secessionists didn't want him in power. The U.S. and the UN would not help. So Lumbamba went to the Soviet Union for support, and then America got pissed and they killed him. So that's one black leader down the drain that Don was mentioning. Next week, you guys can study the Obama-Iranian deal, and we'll talk about that. Yes, history is relevant. Or you can research Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba, Lumumba, who was killed in cold blood by the American government. Or do whatever the hell you want, because we've been talking forever. That's my conclusion.
We're just waiting patiently until the white man implodes.
No, we
okay.
Now, if you wanted to talk about the elite versus the poverty, I could join the conversation. But when I'm included into being an enemy of a benefit that I don't receive, I can't work with you. You see where I'm saying?
Until one of us marries into the 1% or develops our own corporation, we're not the enemy.
What's built into what? I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, so
Ben is trying to say that you shouldn't pigeonhole him because he's white. He's not privileged.
I'm not. I've already said that whatever I'm talking about.
No, Don, I know you want to unite and become powerful by uniting, but the way that your message comes across is that you inherently hate a race designed to look like me, basically.
Never use
he
that
told
word.
me as a white person I can join the NAACP.
I've got 65% of my, the NAACP is in Reno. We're one of the strongest NAACP branches in the country. because of it. We have working relations with every ethnic group in northern Nevada, in the entire region, western region. Everybody knows how.
So
we don't hate Ben. We don't even know what that word means. Black people don't even know what that word means. You don't hate anybody. We're extremely spiritual people. We're extremely
maybe
spiritual
look
people.
it up. Because
we don't want to.
I wouldn't talk the way that you do and generalize your heritage. I wouldn't be able to do that because it would sound a lot different coming from me.
I'm talking about history. You can tell if our heritage was as vile and violent and mean back then, and as I said, everything that I say is categorized in those people from 1930 and before. We're out of necessity, we're all have to work together, just because. And now it's even more because our white counterparts cause climate control according to our scientists, white scientists, and this whole thing is turning into a civil war. And black people aren't even invited to fight. They're not.
I'm not a scientist.
We're not invited to fight. We can't even have BLM without some controversy. We've got nothing, then black people have nothing. So whatever it is,
that's what I'd like to see more of is making an individual's life matter. Doesn't matter what they look like.
That's what I'm saying.
Make your individual self matter.
I know, but we're losing because they're not allowing us. The schools aren't allowing us. The financial institutions aren't allowing us. They won't give us loans. They're not giving us grades. They're kicking us out of school. I've got a school system here that I'm in the middle of working with that has an 18% black male graduation rate, which is unheard of. That's ridiculous. I've got to work around that. I'm doing it. I'm doing everything around here. And it's just because somebody has to do it who knows what they're doing. And I'm not talking, I don't put all of this shit out there that I don't have justification or some related facts or information about. So go ahead and finish you guys' conclusion.
Well, that was mine. I haven't heard anything from Albert, so I'm okay. Go ahead, Albert.
I'm good.
What?
Albert, thank you for. I don't know if I could have listened to all this just being quiet. You're a pretty noble spirit. So
it's not. We didn't say anything that Albert hasn't said in the past either. Albert knows.
I know, but I'm just saying to listen all that time and not comment. That's pretty noble. I have an assignment for everybody. Next week, everybody research their national origin. Albert, even though your mom was born in Mexico, like you might be part Native Indian to that Mexican region. You may not be like you might be 40% Spanish and 60% Native. And I'll research my Native. I'm Swedish Finnish, but I might be something else.
Okay. Polar bear.
Don, you're 90% cocky and 10% African.
I know where I come from, but nobody really wants to hear it.
You're German, but you're not a Nazi?
No, I'm not. I've been fighting the Germans and the English for 1,000 years.
So are you French and English?
No, he's Polish.
No, I'm Irish, Scottish, and Northern Italian.
Nice.
Oh, geez, you just got Jane turned on. You just got Jane turned on, man.
The Finnish were allied with the Nazis in World War II, so I'm ashamed of that.
So I understand the struggle. I read a lot about 1917 Ireland and what was going on with politics with Michael Collins. And,
well, England fucked Ireland over.
Yeah, and they played the same game they're playing now. It was the left. And that's exactly what the left is doing with votes and power over urban areas and identity politics